Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Jade Alberts. I'm a small business strategist, influencer, and brand builder. My passion is helping small businesses grow and succeed. Sharing knowledge and stories is why I started the Telling It Like It Is Facebook live show. It is a live show, so if you have any comments, please, slap them up there. Steve and I will answer them. If you're watching this after the fact on LinkedIn or any other social media channels, feel free to ask your questions and they will be responded to. I would like to thank Healthy Heart Sleep Company for sponsoring this telecast or Facebook Live. They are Calgary's premier sleep apnea CPAP company. They are locally owned, have been for over 11 years, and they have 2 locations. Today's Telling It Like It Is Steve Archambault of Healing Self. Steve, thanks for joining me today. And how are you doing?
Good. I'm doing great. Thanks. How are you today? My pleasure for joining.
Other than, I can't get outside and get the girls to play a little bit of softball, and it's been a great week.
Well, I think the ball matches the ground color right now, right?
Yeah. Well, we use neon balls, so I guess you would be able to, but no one's going to want to pick the ball out of the snow, I'm guessing.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things I like to kind of start with is, talking about networking and how you and I met. So we met at a Community Now fundraiser in December, and you had to find the guy with the funkiest shoes, and boom, there we go. We started our relationship, and now that's, almost 6 months later. We've had quite a few meetings, and it's been a very enjoyable relationship.
Absolutely. The funkiest shoes, absolutely. That used to be my shoe collection. It has dwindled since leaving corporate life, I will admit. But yeah, it was a great event put on to support people in the community with mental health and addiction problems.
Oh, absolutely. Krista does a great job. And I know their 1-year anniversary is coming up here in August, and we'll both be promoting that and hopefully get some more people out to, help with the mental health side of things. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll give a brief introduction here of Steve, and away we go. So after a 20-year career in the financial industry and 5-year in the Canadian Armed Forces, he realized his greatest joy was seeing companies grow because they focused on people. He loved building different business units that came from caring from those that expected to get the job done every day. Steve realized he wanted a different path, one that primarily focuses on the individual person and their well-being. So he started his psychology degree, studied hypnosis as a form of walking with the person to achieve lasting results. He still consults for business leadership and operational reviews, and applies many of the principles he uses in the business world with individual clients. This business will grow into a multifaceted wellness center, which is a long-term goal, which is great. And I know both you and I focus on, on promoting mental health and mental well-being. But the one question I want to ask you first is, it's not a mainstream, hypnotherapy is not something that you see a lot of or get a lot of. I mean, how did you decide to take it into that route?
Well, it was 2 reasons primarily. The first reason was while I'm working on my psych degree, my professor, we got talking about different modalities of people learning to heal. And she mentioned that she was a hypnotherapist as well. And she started telling me about some of the cases that she had dealt with and some of the people and how that they'd seen benefit. And I was sold then. What also sold me was the aspect of, in today's world, we really have a fix-it-quick kind of culture. People want to take a pill and be done with it. I'm not a big proponent of drugs. I do believe that my ultimate belief is if it works, use it, period. But the big proponent of a lot of the drug culture that's in there today, I found that hypnosis, you can get into that subconscious level of work for the client just as much as you could as if they were taking drugs. So I prefer to do it without and be clean. So this is the other reason why I took hypnosis on.
I know that's quite interesting. And I know we had this conversation, when we met about hypnotherapy, because I thought it was really fascinating. And I obviously have no experience with it and don't know anybody that has. So, what are some of the concerns that your clients have, or do you have to convince them to, about the successes of hypnotherapy?
So yes, the answer is yes. They have concerns, and I have to convince them. And some people have already done their research and want to give it a try, and they have no concerns. The major concerns that I get is unfortunately because of the movie industry and because of the industries out there today that shows that these people can be put under hypnosis and they will do your bidding even up to 10, 15 years down the road. Where you see the stage hypnotist who's making people run around and sit on people's laps and do things, and somebody says, "Oh, I would never do that if I wasn't in hypnosis." Well, the truth of the matter is I can't make anybody do anything, right? They have to want it, they have to desire it, they have to be into it, and if it goes against their core values, so if I tried to get somebody to rob a bank and it goes against their core values, they're not going to do it. Their mental capacity will completely override everything I'm doing. So there's a fear of me being able to control somebody or another hypnotherapist being able to control somebody when it is the furthest thing from the truth.
Well, that is interesting. Concept of not being able to do, if they have to want to do it, and I'm sure. I mean, I guess everybody would always obviously remember Ravine from, obviously being our age. I'm sure a lot of people might bring that up and say, hey, is that what you do? Or is that exactly how you do it? Or I guess what kind of process do you, or walk us through the process, I guess, Steve, of how it works?
Well, ideally, everything has a root cause, right? So everything that we do, every block that we do. So if we turn around and we lose our temper or anything else, it all has a root cause. So ideally, we want to find that root cause. But before, if we're looking to gradually work with the client or work with the person, the first step is getting to know them for a little bit, finding out what they want to deal with. Simple as, a single session where somebody comes in and they say, I want to quit smoking. I don't want to smoke. And I just need that edge.
Yeah.
It could take as little as one session where we just put them in a relaxed state, give their subconscious mind the suggestions about how smoking is not good for you and how you don't need it. And they walk out the door and I never smoke again. But there's also the cases where it could take up to 5 or 6 or 10 sessions for somebody to quit smoking. It's just a matter of the individual and where it sits. Now, if smoking has a root cause of childhood trauma and we don't deal with the trauma, but they quit smoking, 6 months later, a year later, they might start smoking again because it's got a root in the addiction and the mental health field.
No, that is interesting. So is it kind of when you say get to the root issue, would it be the same for, like, say, smoking or of abuse or some PTSD? Obviously, what you've probably seen in the military and experienced yourself. Is it the same type of process, or is it something a little different?
It's ideal. I use the same type of process to create comfort for the clients. I don't go into trying different things or throwing wrenches into it. I might try a different, what's called an induction, which is a relaxing state to bring them into the relaxed state. I might try different words or different phrases because you might not respond to the same way that I do respond, right? Yeah. For me, hypnosis takes a different path than it does for somebody else. But it's only in the wording because we don't know, and I don't know about with clients. I use only my words. I generally don't use any body contact, where some hypnotherapists do. I feel that creating that safe space for the client is really important. So that's where it kind of sits.
Okay, well, that makes sense. I mean, obviously, and safe space is something, and these people obviously might have had some sort of trauma in their lives before. Mm-hmm. So I mean, in the one thing that I love about what you do and you offer is, your services to maybe people that can't afford it, or to, certain centers. Can you speak to some of that and why you feel obviously the need to, support the people that can't, that might not be able to become a client? Oh, did I lose you there?
No, I'm back now. Sorry, you did lose me for a second. It froze out. Not sure which side. However, I do think I had the answer to the question, which was, Why did I start offering services to people who can't really afford it? And some of the work that I do outside of the hypnotherapy side of my business.
Yes, yeah, and you know, especially with your, you know, working with some of the nonprofits,
Mhm.
you know, and some of the recovery centers along the and that too.
Well, so when I started my practice, I didn't want to turn anybody away, and there's so much need out in our community of people who are struggling and um, they can't afford to wait because there's a lot of wait time. If they want free services, there's huge amounts of wait time for them to get in, or they can't afford to get into certain types of care. So I offered a kind of a model where I will work with the individual of paying what they can afford. And in some cases, I've had clients completely sponsored by somebody on the outside.
Okay.
So I also, I give them, the sponsorship doesn't cost any more, but I do give them that ability to come in and get help and have somebody listen when other people aren't before. Being in the nonprofit, the other side of the nonprofit, the board I sit on, which is the Canadian Centre for Adult Male Survivors of Childhood Sexual Assault, working with a recovery center. It's all to stay in the field and stay current in with what's going on, to find out, to make sure that for me and my clients, my skills are sharp, but I'm also constantly giving back to the community, because without the community, it's one of the areas that I think that we're losing as a society, and we need to constantly build. So that's why I focus on the outside of the area as well, because there's a lot of people who do not have the ability to get help.
Oh no, and I mean, one of the phrases I use, and more, and obviously it's more in business, but also applies, you know, asking for help is not a sign of weakness, and having somebody to, you know, if they are able to reach out and really do want that help, it's great that someone like yourself is there to offer the services, and not so much worry about the, you know, the financial side of it, because I mean, you know, it takes a whole entire community to save somebody, and if it's once they're finally ready, you know, talk about that process. How long does that type of process take once they're ready to make that step?
I wish I could give an answer that would say, oh, it's 5 months, 6 months. Here's what I know that I believe. It's mental health is kind of like physical health. It's a lifetime journey. The fact that we want to just go in and get fixed and come out and not do anything about it ever again doesn't make sense to me. Every time that we do something, we get back, find a better way of living. So for me, it's a constant journey. It's a constant into meditation. It's a constant use of all the tools that I have to make sure that I am my best person every day. You know, the fact that people will go see a doctor about a sprained wrist, but won't go in once a year or twice a year to talk to somebody just to say, here's what I'm experiencing. Here's where I'm reacting. Here's where I'm responding. What is it do you think help me work through the process of finding the solutions that best suit me? But they let it build up and build up. And I was guilty of this. When I left the military, I thought it was for the weak and everything else. And I let it build up until I cratered. And it took that crater for me to want to be better.
Oh, it's it. I mean, it's such. I'm sure with your experiences, you can relate to these people, which makes it a lot. You can talk to them about experiences and your own, which means a lot to these to the people that are coming in for help.
Yeah, and I was there, and in a lot of cases, I've been through it. So I really work to share that so that they don't feel alone. They don't feel, like that they're the only one, because nobody's the only one, not in the world of the population that we have.
No, absolutely. And for anybody that has been watching this, you can just go into the comment section, click on Stephen's website, Healing Self. So it's right there. You'll be able to get all his contact information as well. So I guess for you, what's next for you, and maybe what's your long-term goals for yourself and your company?
short-term goal for me is constantly learning, growing. I want to take, some grounding trauma work that I want to do, and some new modalities that I want to also bring in, because we are humans and what works for you might not work for somebody else. So I want to be able to be as a well-rounded service provider as I can. And I want to walk with these people. Long-term, it's like you mentioned at the very beginning, I would love to build a multifaceted recovery center, community-based, that, that really allows people to come in and find the healing modality that works for them, where it's not just, you have to do it this way. It's, let's create an environment where everybody's doing something similar, creating community, but people also find different types of healing that, yoga, whatever it is, that's going to resonate with that one person. And so ideally, that's my long-term goal.
And that's a great long-term goal. It'd be awesome to kind of have a place where everybody can, a recovery center like that. I mean, I know I've done some work with some of them, like ARC, and those lines with Dr. Voss. But I mean, the more, there's never enough, in my opinion, and I'm sure you can speak to that too.
There's not enough yet. As long as my belief is, as long as there's a waiting line for somebody who says, I'm ready now, they can't have a waiting, because I'm ready now. They make the call. They might not be ready again tomorrow if nobody's there to take that call.
Oh, yeah. What a great point. Excellent point. And I know, obviously, with your business, and the same question I asked everybody, and, we've had a discussion about this a little more, the struggles, the roller coaster life of an entrepreneur. I mean, if you had one piece of advice for a startup, small business, or TERP, what would it be?
Create a community and don't give up on it. Like, get involved with a community. I mean, you and I are involved with a group called Rainforest. The Community Now piece where we met on mental health. Really get into a community, because you're going to need it. There's going to be those times where you wake up in the morning, and I've had them and I've experienced them, where you're just like, oh my God, what am I doing today? And it's this uphill part of the roller coaster. Create that community, because that's who's going to be there to lift you up. And if you're alone in that time, it feels like you're alone all the time. So get involved with your community. And when you are struggling, reach out to them and be honest. Hey, I'm struggling today. Can you guys meet for a coffee? Can we do something? Create that community, because as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of lonely times. At least in my experience over the last 3 years.
Well, I mean, you know what? We had this conversation with a gentleman that came to Founders Coffee yesterday, and he goes, I've had my business for 20 years, and he goes, I got to start getting out more. He goes, I'm spending too much time in my basement. I've gained a little bit of weight. I got to get out more. And he goes, this is why I found this, this coffee. And, and then I started sharing my story, saying, okay, well, this is what I do, right? I get out, I go, schedule a squash game during the day. I schedule, maybe if I don't have meetings, a coffee with a buddy or something, just to be able to get out of the house and make yourself available to other people, because you do have to talk, and talking is, and it could be talking about the snow, baseball, hockey, whatever, the playoffs, anything you want, just something to kind of get your mind off your struggles. And obviously you can talk about your struggles too, but I mean, it is very important to make sure that you are available and reach out to other people in your network, friends or family.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh, I really appreciate you coming on today, Steve, and sharing your knowledge about hypnotherapy and your company, Healing Self. It's awesome. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jade, and I appreciate you and putting me on today. And I hope you have yourself a great day.
I will, and thank you to Healthy Heart Sleep Company for sponsoring the show. They have 2 locations, locally owned for 11 years. And they are Calgary's premier sleep apnea CPAP company. Steve, thank you again, and I hope everybody has a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.